Welcome to another episode of Appliance Advisers with Yale Appliance. My name's Francesco, joined as always by Dennis McDonald, Vice President of Sales at Yale. How you doing this week, Dennis?
I'm doing great, Fran. Doing great. Back from sunny Pittsburgh. Actually, it was super sunny in Pittsburgh. The weather was amazing.
It's probably nicer weather than we've had here in New England. So,
Yeah.
Not a bad exotic business trip you had there. So
No, but it was a good one. Got to hear from a lot of very large dealers that we are in a group with about 12 large national retailers and kind of hear their perspective of things and kind of collaborate on the business and where things are going and how we can best practice. It's always a good time to get perspective and to have information sharing across the brand. So it's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. That information kind of just helps us all out, makes us better, sees what's going on in the industry. Absolutely. So we definitely have a lot of questions this week. So we're going to kind of hop right into it. And, speaking of the weather, finally, we're starting to get some 70, 80-degree weather maybe this weekend here in New England. So with that, we've been starting to obviously get a lot of questions with grills. And that's definitely kind of now that people are out there and kind of wanting to start grilling, we're starting to, like I said, get a lot more questions. So some of the ones we're going to start right there, and some of the more popular ones we've been seeing here recently, and kind of really sticking with a little bit with Weber, but this question kind of goes with all grills is, side burners on the grills. Should you get a grill with a side burner? How useful is it? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, it's whether it's even built onto the grill itself, and then some people that are doing actual separate grill islands, maybe out back in their yard or by a pool, or have a separate burner actually put into their countertops out back. So I kind of think about it like this: is people that use them say that they like to do things that are maybe a little bit more messy outside, or might have smell. Maybe you're making steamers. Maybe you're doing something that's outside of the home, that frying or something that's just a little bit dirtier, if you will. And some people use it for that. If you're really far out in your yard and it's a long walk back into their house and you're trying to do different types of things at one time, they make sense. I mean, I guess really you got to think about what, the yin and yang of anything having to do with cooking in general is form and function. Do you need more counter space? Like, would those side burners be better used by you having plates and cutting board maybe, or things like that? And then you get back to price. When you're buying a grill that has a side burner, more often than not, if you're undecided, I'd say go for the side burner, because it's not a huge expense difference. It's easy for me to say, but generally, it might be $50, $100, which certainly is still a good amount of money, but may not be enough to have you wonder if you made a right decision. So you just get it. Truth be told, for me personally, I've used it a handful of times. I don't use it consistently. I don't think to use it consistently, but I think that's probably more on the fact that I'm just a creature of habit and don't think to bring it outside. But real hardcore grill people, a lot of times do say they will use it outside for different things.
Absolutely. I mean, you're talking like a Weber kind of type of grill too. Sometimes, you get some other features on the models that have the side burner that maybe you'd use more often anyway. So the side burner, kind of comes along for the ride. And kind of like, in different built-in grills where you have kind of the option to have a separate side burner, that's where you can really kind of have some really nice, fully functional, really high power BTUs. And, outside, that's definitely something you always want to think about too, where you're outside, it could be windy, you're dealing with the elements. So sometimes some of those smaller burners certainly aren't as effective outdoors as they are indoors. And that's why you have really some of these more power burners, they'll call it, where, if you are doing a stock pot of lobster, for example, or something like that, you definitely want to look at something that's more power than you'd really look at indoors too, for sure.
For sure.
All right. So next question, sticking with grills again, Weber had a little bit of a refresh, or a full refresh really, this year in their Genesis line. And one of the things that they launched was what they call as Weber crafted accessories. What are those, and what are the benefits of those?
Yeah, I mean, this is really kind of a cool concept. Again, a little slow because they just started to come in over the last probably month here in terms of the ranges grills that can actually use them. So Weber has created a kind of a part of the integrated right into the grill itself that has the ability to have these drop-in type of accessories. So everything from a pizza stone to a wok ring to a flat iron skillet, there's a griddle. So there's some really cool things that now make the Weber kind of more functioning. It was really smart for them to do, right? Because pizza ovens are a thing that some people really are putting outdoors now, for sure. And they're able to be doing all these different types of cookings. Blackstone is a brand that's out there and has made a living at these flat top griddles and things like that. So Weber's kind of covered a lot of bases with this one. Everything from a wok burner, like I said, to doing pizza, to doing griddle work, to do it, so it's kind of it's a cool thing, and it's something you don't have to buy right off the bat, but you can buy down the road or buy at the time. And actually, those grills that have that actually have a storage system to actually store those accessories right within the grill itself when they're not being used. So kind of a cool thing. I like the concept a lot.
Yeah, definitely a lot of nice flexibility there, like you said, to use it, to not use it, to store it away. And that's always one of the biggest pains too, is you have all these cool things. It's like, where do I put them when I'm not using them? You don't want to keep them inside. It's hard to store them in the grill. So Weber did a really nice job with those. And again, kind of sticking with Weber specifically here, the next question really talks about, these companies love their marketing slogans a little bit, but what is the Weber Sear Station? Really, what is that?
Yeah, so it's really a dedicated burner with a little more BTU that's set into the grill itself, just to do that. So if it was a 3-burner grill, a Weber grill, for instance, there is a 4th knob that has this searing station that just has more intense heat. More heat output right there. So you're really made to mark your meat or sear your meat, and then pull it to the left or right. Now it is variable. You can get high to low on it. But more often than not, many times when you're not searing, you might turn that off, because I will tell you, for a little Weber grill, it gets pretty intense. It does a good job. And that's, all grills, you see this searing function, that's out there in some form or function out there in these grills, because really it's important, to really sear that juice or that meat in many times. So that's really what it is.
All right, awesome. Very good. All right, now switching gears a bit off outdoors and going back inside here. So built-in refrigeration sizes, what are you seeing as the most popular size and style when it comes specifically to built-in professional refrigerators?
So that's a question we get a lot. If you're in the built-in category of refrigeration, the most common sizes are 30. They go in 6-inch increments. So 36, 42, 48, you can get up to 60. But, the most popular sizes for the longest time were 36 or 48. Kind of 42 got jumped right over. And the reason for that is, for the longest time, a 42-inch fridge only meant it had a freezer on one side and a refrigerator on the other. And when you're buying that type of a refrigerator, there's not a huge cost difference to go from 36 all the way up to 48. So many times it just came back to what would fit the space the best. And really what people felt was 36-inch refrigerators many times were a single door refrigerator. Of course, they have a split style, but the popular built-ins were a single door 36. And in that case, food's wide, not tall. So the fact that the fridge had a freezer on the bottom and had a big open refrigerator section was attractive. People felt in the 42-inch, you just were splitting the space so much, and it was really, really, really tight. On the 48, again, now it opens up. Your refrigerator size itself is pretty good size again, and now you really kind of seem to function. So that's kind of, now that's started to shift a bit, and I think it will continue to move around, because now they've come up with, as you know, Fran, these split door refrigerators. We like to call them French door refrigerators, where there's a freezer on the bottom and the top of the fridge is broken in half to split open wide. That was always really popular, again, because we put islands in kitchens, and that split style upper door allows for people to move around. You could think about a 48-inch, a 4-foot wide door. One, it would never hold on a hinge, but beyond that, it would really be obtrusive. It wouldn't work. But now you're starting to see these French style refrigerators that started in 36 inches as being the most common size. Brands in the last couple of years have come out with a 42-inch split door, freezer on the bottom. And now we're going to see introduction of 48-inch split door freezer on the bottoms. Brands like SKS, Sub-Zero, brand True, they will all have 48-inch French door bottom mount refrigerators later this year. And then Sub-Zero, Genier, KitchenAid, there's been a few brands that have already been out with a 42-inch French door refrigerator. So we're kind of seeing that change. The takeaway is this, though, still for everybody. That idea of a bigger fridge up top where you go into more often, and a freezer on the bottom that you generally go into less often is still the most popular style. And as they make these more and more sizes of this French door style in 36, 42, and 48, that trend is only going to continue more and more and more, I believe.
Absolutely. And like you said, that kind of side by side where they're really small on both sides, we've seen almost like the 36 inches in the built-ins really almost become non-existent at this point, because again, they're so small on both sides that people are definitely looking for more of that kind of 48 and French door, something like that too. So very good. All right, next question. So we're going to switch to cooking here. We hear a lot about speed and steam ovens. Is there one that you recommend over the other? What are the differences between a speed and a steam oven? Just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, speed versus steam there, I would say really comes down to the person. So a lot of times people ask that when they have limited space, and what they're thinking about doing is having a single wall oven and above it putting either a speed oven or a steam oven. So they really many times can't fit double ovens and then have a separate choice. So they're trying to a lot of times do it all in one, although you don't have to, but that's commonly where people are really considering. So some pros and cons to both. It really just comes down to the person. So let's talk about one of the most common things. A speed oven really is an oven that uses dry heat. It can bake, broil, reheat food, pop popcorn like a microwave can. So it's a microwave as well as a very fast oven. Okay. Generally, it is smaller physically, a little smaller. It reheats food like a microwave can, instant off and on. If you were to use a steam oven to reheat, it reheats very, very well because it rehydrates the food. It actually puts steam moisture back into food. And when you think about why a microwave, many times the food isn't quite as good, it's because it's at such high heat, it's removing a lot of that moisture that was already in the food. So a steam oven will reheat food. So for leftovers, it's actually great, but it takes longer. It's not instant. It might take 10 minutes to get to temp and things like that. So a lot of times when people are thinking about using it in a reheat form, it can be a little clunky for them, unless you're very patient. But you just want to think about that. Do you have kids? Do you have, hey, mealtime, they're in between games. They got to go reheat it quick. You're on the go. So just thinking about that there. In terms of actual functionality, though, a speed oven's really easy to set. Instant on, 450 degrees, 425. You can use it more like an oven. The steam ovens can be used like an oven. You can actually turn off the steam effect and put in and use convection, but that's really entirely up to you if you want to do that. Again, it would take longer to get to that temperature. So that's how you'd use the steam versus steam, steam versus speed. So
yeah, definitely one of those pros and cons depending on how you cook and what you're cooking and things like that. There's not necessarily one right answer for each person. It's a little bit different, kind of depending on exactly how you're using it. And kind of, sticking with the next question kind of sticks a little bit with speed ovens too. We hear about convection microwaves and either a built-in microwave, an over-the-range microwave that might have convection. What's the difference between that and a speed oven?
So on that case there, the difference would be a convection microwave is really fan forced air in a glorified magnetron or regular microwave heat. Just think of it as a microwave, but it moves air, as opposed to a classic microwave, just pushed heat directly from the bottom kind of down onto the food. This employs a fan and it's moving air a little bit differently as well. You can turn it on more like an oven. It does have a time, so you can truly set it to 425 or 450, and it's a fast preheat. So it's good on things like frozen to cooked food and things like that. But there again, it's not exactly, perfect cooking, but it's better than a traditional microwave. A speed oven many times has an actual bake and broil element built in addition to a fan. Does not use microwave heat. Some do use microwave, but it's more microwave to assist in the cooking, not like we think of a classic microwave. So it can be really, really fast, but it truly has a bake and broil element. So if you're somebody that truly is going to cook and really wants the max performance, a speed oven would absolutely blow away a convection over the range microwave. Or a convection microwave. If you're somebody that says, you know what, I don't feel like I need that true second oven, but for the small difference in money, it might be worth me stepping up from a regular microwave to a convection microwave. I think that's a really good idea for most people, if that's your choice, because microwaves in general have come down. They've been a super deflationary product. They're so inexpensive anyway that, again, get the convection. If you used it a few times, it costs you, it's peanuts many times, $30, $40, not a lot of money. So
Yeah, and definitely, like you said, the convenience of just having it, that even those few times a year, like even for us, we have a convection microwave, and sometimes even on like Thanksgiving, we'll use it to heat up or keep sides warm, or for kids, I have 3 young kids too. Like you said, the frozen food, chicken nuggets, fish sticks, things like that, where if you're cooking your main meal in the oven, you can absolutely cook something like that in your over the range microwave too, something like that. Definitely the convenience of it is nice.
Yeah.
All right, so the next question is going to be talking about something that's certainly a lot of people have been using recently is air fryers, and now what you're starting to see is this air fry technology or air fry modes really being built into a wall oven or a range. One, really, what is air fry, and how do those work in an oven or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, air fry is an intense heat, kind of trying to move the air, and it's a healthy way of cooking. And air fryers, as everyone knows, has really become a rage. It's a popular feature, really coming off the countertop air fryers. So, if in full transparency, I haven't found one yet that has actually done it in a physical range, in the actual oven cavity itself, that does a good job.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it's marketing spin, and it's not that. I think maybe they could get there. I mean, I'm not going to pretend to be an engineer on this one, but I'll say the reason why it doesn't work to this point is there's just too much space, physical space. Air fryers classically are small because they need to control that moisture and air movement and heat really direct on the food to get the result. When you put it into a much bigger wall oven or a range cavity, it just doesn't work. I mean, we've tested it time and time again. It just simply put does not work.
Yeah, agreed. All right, next question. Of course, we can't go a whole show without talking product availability. So how come I can't find a 27-inch wall oven anywhere?
Yeah, that question. I saw that question come up. I mean, the reality of it is it's just supply and demand. It takes the same amount of microchips to make a 27-inch wall oven as it does 30-inch, and 30-inch is the industry standard. It is 100 to 1 what you sell. So you're not finding them because there's not enough demand to have the manufacturer choose a 27-inch wall oven over a 30 when 30 really appeals to the masses. That's the honest reality. And more often and not, certainly not always the case, but historically a 27-inch wall oven was an much older cutout because it's not the standard today. So many times those spaces, those people buying them aren't always necessarily looking for a top of the line one, which is fine. They may not need it. But they're generally looking for a more basic 27-inch wall oven to just fill a hole that they have in their kitchen when their wall ovens died. And again, the manufacturers are choosing to make the more expensive 30-inch classic wall ovens because it just comes down to they have one microchip or one set of microchips. What are they going to do with them? Build a slam dunk or build maybe one that takes a little longer to sell. Fran, I do want to answer a couple of these questions that are coming in. Someone was mentioned as a legally blind person. How accessible is an LG WM4500? LG is a general brand. They have large interior openings in and out. Their controls are actually pretty large. Not knowing the level of impairment, but I would say, you may want to start to consider some of these appliances that actually have voice command too. So if you are in and out, many of the front load machines are certainly big enough, but you want to consider a brand maybe that has voice. They can work through Alexa or different things. You can actually turn your washer off and on, that way. That may actually help a lot and not having to see the controls quite as much. Hopefully that answered part of your question. Mm-hmm. Another person there asked about, as a meal prepper, would love to see a fridge with an equal size or even larger freezer. Yeah, I know you would. It's Logan out there, but I can almost promise you is an all-in-one unit that doesn't exist and probably most likely won't exist. And I don't know. It's not that it's probably very functional for you. It's just not what the masses demand. And the challenge, Logan, that everyone I think understands through COVID is so many of these products are really one and the same. There's fewer and fewer manufacturers. So, there's not a lot doing that. The solution may be you can buy a column refrigerator and do a fridge of one size because they make refrigerators starting with only 24-inch wide just for refrigerators, and then get a bigger freezer. The freezers can come 18, 24, 30, and 36, depending on the brand. So you can do that. I'll also tell you it's going to be expensive to do. They're the higher end brands that do it. So just to know that on that end. Thoughts on, from Mafu was asking, thoughts on front loader versus top loader. It's not even a thought, Mafu. Front loader is the way to go. There is a surge back to top loader, and my recommendation to everybody that buys a top loader is to buy an old school top loader, the top loader that actually has the corkscrew agitator in the middle of it, because it's the only top loader that turns the laundry and actually gets a clean wash. Now, it is harsher on your clothes because it's pulling and tugging at them. It does use more water, but again, there has been a surge back to top loaders to a degree, mainly because first gen front loaders in the US had some mold and smell issues, and honestly some user error in there. People didn't really know how to use them properly. I think a lot of that's been worked out, but front loader is always my recommendation. But if you're going to do top loader, do the old fashioned kind that has a corkscrew. Brands to consider there might be GE has a commercial unit. It's residential, but it's termed commercial. Speed Queen has a residential commercial. What we mean is a 5 or a 7 year bumper to bumper warranty on it. So, it's kind of a lot of value to get that top loading style if that's what you're going to do. All right, Fran. And then Matrix had asked a question in there about an 800 CFM hood. You won't find an 800 CFM hood in 36 inches, but you will find a 900 CFM. So traditionally, hoods at 36 inches traditionally go 600, 900, and there are some that you can get closer to 1100 CFM of suction. Just depends what you're putting it over and where you're pushing. Brands there's only a few brands, so you can get every brand, but pretty much every brand that makes a 36-inch hood makes a 900 CFM blower. But you're traditionally looking at more professional style brands that'll, you're going to need something that's physically larger. We know it's 36 inches, but don't think you're going to get a sleek little pretty hood that's small and get a big blower put in it. In that case, you'd have to generally get something that has more scale to it and height and whatnot to put a bigger blower, and 900 would be the standard.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good. So next question is going to kind of go back to refrigeration. And, this is something historically, dual compressors, historically something that we've seen in really only professional kind of built-in refrigeration, but definitely starting to see them a little bit more now in kind of freestanding refrigeration. What are the benefits of having a dual compressor in a refrigerator?
Yeah. I would say the dual compressor, just, to understand that every other fridge in the world, the way fridges classically work is there's only one compressor that chills the freezer. It keeps the freezer cold, right? Because that's the more cold of the two items. And then a damper opens as your refrigerator needs colder air to replace the warm air that's come in as you've opened the door 10 or 20 times a day. It's a damper. And just to drill that home, you'd know that, because that's why on your produce bins or your vegetable drawers, you have these humidity slides that you're trying to keep the natural moisture that happens when freezing cold air meets the warmer air of the fridge. Warm versus cold, you're going to have condensation, and that's what spoils food, right? So dual compressor, so you understand that most refrigerators only have one compressor and it's constantly working to cool something. So it's a lot of wear and tear on it. Dual compressor benefit is that half the use. One's maintaining constant fridge temp and one is maintaining constant freezer temp. By having dual compressors, you do not have the transfer of cold. There isn't that damper that's going from one to the other. One is just feeding the fridge and one is just feeding the freezer. So longer life expectation, historically better food preservation, because you're controlling the moisture and you're controlling the temperature, because that compressor can zap that temperature very quickly and keep consistent temperature across the food, and that's really the key to preserving food, period.
Very good. And then sticking again with refrigeration here, this is definitely a question we get often. And the refrigeration, whether it's an external dispenser or an internal dispenser, why is the water that comes out of those dispensers not cold?
Oh, man, I've taken more management calls over the years from people that say, you know what, listen, my old fridge, it dispensed cold air, cold water. And unfortunately, it had nothing to do with your refrigerator. So there is not a refrigerator in the world that has a chiller built in to produce cold water. All that water is coming from the water supply in your home. So that could have been the time of year, and it was winter time that you're remembering, and it was really cold coming out of the ground or coming through the pipes to your home, and the water's colder. In the summer, you'd notice it's warmer. It is true that upon your first cup, if you haven't taking a glass of water from your refrigerator in a bit, or maybe first thing in the morning, that cup will be cold. And that's only because there's no mystery here. We'll debunk the mystery right now. In the back of the refrigerator is a plastic water tube. It's the line that comes from the water outlet of your house, runs up the back, out of the wall to get water to the unit, runs up the back of the fridge itself to dispense the water in. So that line, that plastic line, runs on the outside of your refrigerator, and it's pushed up against the cold compressor that just chills the refrigerator naturally. Mm-hmm. So it does get cool. The water in that, if it's 3 or 4 feet of thin PEX tubing, once you take your first glass, if you went to get your second glass, you'd call me and say, my second glass of water was a lot warmer than my first glass. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, exactly, because it is. It's true. So it doesn't chill it. I want to answer real quick because we have a few minutes here. You have, I think it's VNB asked, if you could have one luxury appliance in your home, what would it be? That's a tough one, VNB. I would answer it like this. Whatever brand a locally reliable brick and mortar retailer recommends and stands behind. If you're asking mine, we have a few of them. There's actually a lot of them. And I might even change that by category, to be honest, If it was dishwashers, I'd probably answer quickly and say it should be a Miele, if you're asking me the best. If it's a set of laundry, actually, this is not a Miele plug here, but I would say it's a Miele again, but it's very small and compact. If it's a full-size one, I'd probably say it's a GE or an LG. So it would really vary, but the brands we would certainly think of would be Thermador, Subwolf, SKS, Fisher-Paykel. To me, I would tell you this, VNB, there is not a brand I could sell you or anyone can sell you and promise it won't break, because the reality of it is it will at some point. You just need to be with a responsible dealer in your area that can actually fix it when it does break, and has a good relationship with those manufacturers to stand behind you as a consumer. And that's what really drives us, because honestly, a lot of the appliances have got really good. I don't know that there is one absolute premium brand across all segments anymore. In fact, I know there isn't. There just isn't. Absolutely. Okay. What are the ones that I'm missing here, Fran? Someone's looking for a good speed oven. Is Bosch the best? Nope. And it's not the worst either. Truth be told, many times they're the exact same manufacturer making a lot of these speed ovens. So a lot of them made over in Europe and made for these brands, whether it's a Wolf. They don't make theirs. It's produced for them. Mm-hmm. Bosch produced for them. Thermador produced for them. So I don't think there's a good or a bad speed oven per se. I think what makes a good speed oven, honestly, is usability and maybe what you like the controls of and what you feel like is the easiest to use just to get through it. That's probably a big thing with the speed oven, because it has a lot of functions. So you want to make sure that it's intuitive to you and that you feel like you can use it easily. Would probably be the driving point there. Okay. And then someone asked, what's the best induction with an extractor? I don't really know that question in terms with the extractor. Maybe they're thinking a hood. I don't. Yeah, vent. Yeah, I mean, any hood would work with any induction. The questions more become, how are you venting your hood, in or out? Mm-hmm. Best induction. Listen. There's a lot of good inductions in there. I think for the money, and you're going to say he's crazy. He's trying to pitch an expensive brand. The Wolf induction cooktop is one of the less expensive, actually, in induction cooktops. It is absolutely one of the best performing, easy to use and best performing. And I'll also tell you, it takes a long time to get one right now. So it's not self-serving. We get them. We sell a lot of them. But if you're asking about raw performance, it really is good. And Mafu, again, asked about mixing and matching colors across different brands. Don't, Mafu, do not fall into that trap. You're going to waste money and pick appliances. The best brands, the highest end kitchens we sell are mixed and matched, and you look at those pretty pictures and say, oh my gosh, that dream kitchen, and I can guarantee you 100% of the time they're not all the same brand, and you'd never pick it up. If, now I say that, and I say if everything is literally 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's when you think of your kitchen. Not everything is stacked on top of each other. So prospectively look across the kitchen, and you're not always getting the best price to do all one brand either. Huge marketing misnomer and kind of leading thing, and Americans fall into that trap every day, all day. So I think I would just make sure that it blends. There's one brand out there, Frigidaire. I think about them a lot. They claim streak-free stainless, but they blend a lot of aluminum into their stainless, and that's what they do when it's streak-free. It has another blended metal in there in most cases to create that streak-free effect. It's nice. It's easy to clean up. But that is one brand for sure. Has a darker color. There's a brand out there called Exo under counter units. Definitely a different color gray. Comes from overseas, China, I think, which is fine. A lot of brands do, but definitely we've heard that when you mix and match it, people say it looks like a more gray stainless steel compared to others. So there's a few, but they're really very few exceptions.
All right, that's good. A lot of questions from the audience today. I think we have time for probably one more question here.
Sure.
So last one is really going to kind of go back to dishwashers. What is a water softener in a dishwasher? What does it exactly do?
Yeah, you see that a lot. A lot of the European companies have it if they have hard water. And if you have hard water, you have hard water. How you'll know you have hard water if you have constant spotting on your dishes, particularly your glassware, maybe white etching. You notice like a wet white. That can be people that are on a well, coming right out of the ground, and it's not treated per se. Sometimes it's just town water or city water and how it's treated by the city with certain material, chemicals and whatnot. A softener really is salt. It's a salt, a natural salt put into the units, and it's made to mimic kind of like what happens in true in the true natural world, which is I didn't, Fran, I won't pretend to be an amazing student, but I will say I did kind of pick up on this thing. If you think back to water and how spring water is clean spring water, when we think about things like that, really it goes through the different layers of the earth, down through the dolomite and the shale and the sand and the stones and all that, and it really works its way through the surface and into the earth, and then comes back up through, and that is a natural filtration. Well, that water softening is trying to keep that. It stacks up this natural salt. The water works its way through it, treats the water, and removes the impurities or the scale that is actually putting the spotting or the etching or making your glassware or silverware really not shine. That's it. Now, for dishwashers that have water softeners, you don't have to use it. And a lot of times it's really scary because like page 1, there's like a big thing that says, make sure to put soap in your water softener. You're going to break it. You're not going to break it. You can choose to use it or not use it. But again, for anyone asking that question, you probably are asking it distinctly because you have hard water and you have a hard time getting streak-free or spot-free glasses in the past. And a dishwasher with a water softener would be for you. Brands there, Miele, Bosch, Beko, a lot of it's really the European brands are the ones that do it. They're the ones that do it.
Didn't think I was going to get a lesson here on water coming from the earth.
Hey, listen, don't ask me any math facts, Fran. I'd be stumped. I'm not going to be able to.
I'm impressed. All right. Well, that was a great episode this week. A lot of questions we got answered, and really thank you to the audience. A lot of really great questions, and we always appreciate those. So thanks again for this week, Dennis. We'll look forward to another episode next Thursday at 4:00 of Appliance Advisors. I hope you have a great week.
Thanks again, Fran. See you next week.
Thanks, everyone. See you later.